Novak Djokovic stands alone at the top of men's tennis, winning a record 23rd Grand Slam title by beating Norwegian Casper Ruud in the final of the French Open. The Serbian is the first man to win all four slams at least 3 times. He's surpassed his fellow greats of the game, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. Joining me live is former pro tennis player John Fitzgerald. John, a pleasure to talk to you this morning. We need to talk about a bit of good news given the circumstances of what we've all woken up to. But let's talk about the Joker. He certainly kissed that trophy a lot overnight when he won the French Open. Settle this debate for us. Is he now the best of all time?
Well, that's always a difficult question surrounded by asterisks, I think, Laura. But he's certainly making a good he's making a good case, isn't he? Look, to win 23 times, no one else has ever done it. But different eras produce different champions. I mean, for instance, Ken Rosewall in the 50s and 60s was not allowed to play 11 years straight in these tournaments because he turned professional. So he missed 44 more opportunities to add to his tally of 8 Grand Slam singles titles. So there's always these little asterisks, but no one can deny how good this player is and that he has won more majors now in his era than anyone else ever has. So I think when that question arises, Laura, he's the first person that people think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, let's talk about those asterisks though, because absolutely we can't take that number 23 away from him. But what are the asterisks in your mind? Is it that he's, no longer playing against Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal? What else is there?
Well, there's the big one that I just mentioned, like Ken Rosewall, for instance. Rod Laver missed 5 years straight, 20 straight opportunities to win Grand Slam singles titles, and he won 11. So, but I think to Novak's defence, he can only beat the players that are in front of him, and he went through probably the second 2/3 or maybe the third 3/4 of the careers of Djokovic and Federer, and he had a winning record against everyone on the planet. So, no one can deny that he starts as favourite probably to be that number one player. But I just have a real nervousness that surrounds me when I talk about the best player of all time, because it's like comparing an apple to an orange sometimes. But I think with 23 titles, to be fair, I've always thought that the records speak for themselves, and his record does. I mean, 23
absolutely.
times is, it's hard to believe that we will ever see it again. We often think with great sportsmen in history, we won't see that again. Most of the time we do. But I think in our lifetime, Laura, we certainly in my lifetime, I'm not going to see this again. He's a phenomenon. His timing, Laura, is just scary for an average player. We all battle hard to be as good as we can be, but to see what he does and how he hits the ball in the middle of the strings when it matters most, did not make a mistake in that first set tiebreaker. Once he got off to a sluggish start, and then he just went to another level, and he has the ability to do that time and time again. He's a phenomenon.
The mental resilience about the Joker is something that just is awe-inspiring to me. I just think he has got one of the strongest mental games of not just tennis, but across the world of professional sports. But you mentioned, when you talk about who you think the best of all time is, well, John, lay it out right here. We can't take the 23 away from him. The stats don't lie, but I mean, a lot of this is in the eye of the beholder, right? A feeling, an emotion, a different era. Who do you put up as the best player of all time?
Well, I think I actually don't think it's a question that, Laura, to your defence, I don't think it's a question that I like to talk about because there are too many great players who have played under different circumstances with different equipment on different surfaces over a century of tennis. So that question for me is not one that I actually like to talk about, because I always think you're assuming too many things. And
best of his era, John. Best of his era.
Well, he's won more, Laura. He's won more than everyone else. So you can't You can't deny that. I love watching him. I get the privilege, Laura, to sit on the side of the court a lot of the time at the Australian Open and commentate and watch up close at ground level what these players do. And when I saw him this past January, I every time I watched him play, I was just left shaking my head on how can a player make contact so perfectly with the ball so often and be so accurate with where he hits it. It's something that accuracy, I think, is something we've never seen before. And to me, I know that's an underwhelming adjective, but he is the most accurate player I've ever seen, and it takes genius to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a genius of the game, and we can't take that away from him. And look, John, I love hearing you on the sidelines of the Australian Open. Are we going to hear you talk about the Joker again come January now that he's got this 23? I mean, is he going to retire? I'm not talking about you retiring, John. I'm talking about, the Joker actually getting close to, calling it.
Laura, you brought a smile to my face. Look, I will be there. I will be there this year. Sitting on the side for my little input. The elephant in the room now is whether Novak can actually become the third male player in history to win a calendar Grand Slam, Laura. So now that he's got the French, which has always been historically probably his hardest to win, I mean, he's won Wimbledon 7 times. He starts as an outrageous favourite to win that again this year. And then if he wins that, the US Open is the only tournament that stands in his way to win a calendar Grand Slam. So that's the great interest now for the rest of this year for Novak. If he does, he joins Sir Donald Budge and Rod Laver as the only 2 other players in history to win all 4 Grand Slams in one calendar year. And
hang on, hasn't he done a Grand Slam, the calendar year Grand Slam yet?
Not in one calendar Grand Slam. No. So this is a big few months ahead of him now to get that. It's not a monkey off his back, but to have the opportunity now again to win all 4. And you know what? He deserves. He's good enough. He deserves to do that and join Sir Donald Budge and Rod Laver, obviously.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Not a monkey, as you say, more like a cherry, and we hope he can do it. I hope to see him in January do that as well. John, I tell you what, it's a pleasure to talk to you this morning. We all needed a little bit of levity and a smile on our face, and thanks for helping us do that this morning.
Thanks, Laura. It's my pleasure.